welcome back to the Independent Thinking Online Children's Book Festival that we've been running, speaking to authors from all over the place with all sorts of books, books for children, books about children, books to help children, books to help parents, books that even though they're there to help parents, have got a lot to say to teachers. And I've been in a really privileged position of getting to speak to so many great authors in these little 20-minute sessions. And one of the things that really interests me about the books is the story within the story, the backstory, how the authors came to be writing the books, what is the message that's being delivered through these little storybooks. And this is a good example. What's Wrong Arty by Linda Beckett is another lovely little story, a little, as you can see, a picture book for children, but there is more to it than just a picture book for children. So I'm here with Linda, I'm here with the author. Thank you for joining us, Linda. Just introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about you, what you do, what you're up to, and how you came to be writing a book that's called What's Wrong Arty.
Yeah, thanks very much, Ian, for having me. Yes, like you say, there is always a backstory, and I have got quite an interesting one. I suppose I became an author quite sort of late in life, so it evolved over years. But yeah, my name's Linda Beckett, and I live in North Hampshire. I'm married with two grown-up sons, and I've got one grandchild as well who's tried out my books. He's 16 months, but he can make his views known in his own little way. Yeah, my first book, What's Wrong Arty, released in 2018. So quite new compared to a lot of other authors in the group. So I've been on quite a journey. So when my boys were small, I used to volunteer in schools and used to be primary and infants. I used to go in, I used to help them with the reading and get lots of enjoyment from that. I also used to help them with the cooking, which for some reason mums didn't want to do that, but I really loved it. And so did they. So they got really excited, so I enjoyed that. So I sort of spent quite a time in schools. I did a bit of dinner ladying because it fitted in with them being at school. And I also went on to do teaching assistant in a secondary school. So I had quite a number of years in schools and enjoyed that. So while my boys were growing up, I was quite interested to do some studying. I quite like learning about new things. So I wanted to do a course with the Open University. And I'd seen at the time, there was quite a few adverts every now and again. And I was quite intrigued by it. And I thought, oh, when I get a chance, I'll do that. So I thought what I'll do is apparently there's some universities that you can go along to and you can see the course. So you can actually go and read the course material to see if it's right for you, which I thought was really a good idea because some of these courses can be quite expensive. So I went along to my local university, which is in Reading, and had a look at the course material and thought, yeah, I'd quite like to do that. So basically, I hadn't studied for quite a long time. So when you haven't, you have to do a foundation course before you start sort of any sort of serious studying. And I thought, well, I'll just go on with the angle of, hopefully I'll just enjoy it. Hopefully I'll pass, but it's not the end of the world if I hadn't. So you had to do foundation, and say you had to pick, several subjects: sociology, psychology, geography, economics and politics. So I had to do a bit of everything, which was quite good for me. So I did pass the first year, fortunately. And I thought, oh, what shall I do now? I need to pick a subject. And it was a toss-up between sort of law and psychology. And I thought, well, I'm quite interested in the psychology bit. So I had to do a further 5 years.
Wow.
So what happened was you studied for 9 months, then you had the exam at the end, and then you had perhaps 2.5 months rest, and then you'd start again. So yeah, it was quite tough. There was 4 years of the sort of psychology subjects. The last 2 years were being equivalent to the last 2 years of university. And in fact, what was really good is I got to stay in a university studying properly, and where you have the students at the uni that would take 6 weeks to complete a course, this one was all crammed into 1 week. Wow. So it was quite intensive, but you did the course that the students did.
Yeah.
which was quite useful for when my sons went to university. I kind of knew, because I went to Nottingham, I went to Sussex, I went to Bath, and we sort of got a bit of the sort of university life. So I knew what to expect when they both went.
Yeah.
So that was really good. And also so I did 4 years of the psychology courses, and the last year I spent looking at children, how they lived in different cultures, and how they were affected all over the world. So that was really, really interesting. So I completed that degree. This was way back in 2004, and that's why I say I've had a bit of a journey. But I did have a wonderful graduation ceremony, and that was at the Royal Festival Hall, and that was presented by Betty Boothroyd, who obviously the Speaker of the House of Commons. So I got that, and then I thought, well, now I've got that. I wasn't planning on getting that, because I didn't know I was going to do that, because you complete 1 year and then you carry on and you finish. And I thought, well, maybe I could use it to help people. So the next thing I did, whilst still working kind of in the background, I thought, well, I'll go on assistant psychology course. Obviously you had to pay for that, and I went up to Manchester for that, and it was an intensive weeks course, and it was in a clinic setting, because I had to kind of get used to, if I was going to help people, I had to kind of get used to talking with people. Basically I did help them with IQ tests. I did IQ tests, so that was interesting. And I also got to interview a man who'd just been released from prison, having been charged with child sexual abuse, would you believe? So you're kind of thrown into all these different scenarios. And to interview him with a colleague of mine, it was in a room called a lockup. So you had cameras and you had the panic button. So you were literally thrown in the deep end, I suppose. But the idea with that, they said, was to ascertain if he took a part of any guilt, if he could see what he'd done wrong after having taken that time. And so what we found was that he came out with a certain story, and we felt that he told that story over and over again. So by the time he'd come out of prison, he had that ready-made story. And it turned out that when we spoke to the lead social worker afterwards, that wasn't it at all. So it wasn't actually what took place, because he was saying that she was 17 and he met her down the pub, and that's how he knew her. Whereas in fact, she was really 15 and their babysitter, his family babysitter.
Okay. It gave you an insight into minds, brains working differently.
It does. So I think they had a lot of work to do on him. So unfortunately, I didn't see how that maybe I ought to contact them and see. But so that was very much an eye opener.
Yeah.
There.
So where does Arty fit in then? Where does Arty fit in with all of this background? It's really inspiring how you're talking about what you've done and how you've just gone relentlessly from one qualification to another, learning, developing your brain and everything. It's really inspiring. So where does Arty fit in?
Yeah, I mean, Arty fitted in much many more years down the line, to be honest, because although that qualification enabled me to become a member of the British Psychological Society, which is actually in my front copy, sort of that's how I got that qualification.
Wow, yeah.
So that's the kind of background to that. But as far as Arty goes, many years down the line, I mean, I tried to actually get a job within that industry. Cut a long story short, couldn't actually do it. And the situation at the time is that I needed to go out to work, and unfortunately I ended up doing finance admin, which is just totally boring. But anyway, with Arty, I was shocked to learn that children of primary school age were now suffering with mental health issues, and I just wanted to do something to help. And I wondered if, because my father used to tell me stories about woodland animals as a child, and I think things like that always stay with you. So I thought, I wonder whether I could build a story in my head. I mean, I had a few ideas in my head, and I actually wrote this book. It took me 6 weeks in my lunch hour, literally, because I think the story was mainly up in my head. So that's how I had the idea of him. So I thought, well, it was a story, and I needed to sort of find a larger than life character. I thought, well, I've always liked bears. So Arty the Bear was created, and I just built the characters around him. Some of them are named after people that I know as well. But that's why I thought, well, it's a three-pronged thing, because there's so many ways. In fact, that's evolved as well, how different people use this book.
Yeah.
Parents, teachers, therapists, even foster care agencies. In fact, I had a lovely, I don't know if you can see that, I'll try and...
Yeah. What's wrong with your book review? Yeah.
Beautiful review from Fosterline.
Oh, okay, nice.
And they actually said, I recently read this story to my sister's 3 young fostered children, aged 3, 6 and 7. And the 6 and 7-year-old were very keen and able to discuss and reflect upon the message of the story. They compared it to a recent event that had caused them sadness until sharing the problem with their foster carer. The 3-year-old simply loved the beautiful illustrations and was delighted to learn that Arty felt soothed and happy once his friends had helped him to solve his problems. This book is a valuable tool for foster carers. It cleverly engages children and allows them to reflect upon their feelings, encouraging them to share their problems and to find positive resolutions. So, I mean, I was really quite touched.
Yes, lovely. Yeah.
So, you know, how many children go to school that are fostered, you know? So I have another one with an educational psychologist.
Yeah.
So if you have children from the school, maybe that are referred to an educational psychologist. What a wonderful find. Linda's descriptions create the most beautiful imagery, making it very appealing for little ones. She cleverly engages children with the story, laying the foundations for the development of empathy and introspection, and encouraging them to speak out and ask for help when they need it. This book is definitely going to be a very valuable tool in my practice for years to come. So basically, parents, teachers, therapists, for the school, teachers could have the subject, read the book, and then have a discussion on how we're feeling today, and it could evolve from there. So almost any topic, really. You know.
Yeah, no, I mean, it at one level, it's such a simple little book.
Yeah,
big bear, and I can get bears because they're big and strong, but there's a vulnerability about bears as well, isn't there? The way they're portrayed in these things, especially on the cover. That's a vulnerable big bear. That one is. So you've got this simple book written in lovely language and the images are like something out of an animated cartoon. They're like something out of Disney. They're so bright. But then you've got all your years and years and years of learning and training and experience in all sorts of aspects of life, including, you know, the financial admin that you're doing as well, the understanding, you know, just life, if you like. And that's all sort of embedded in between the lines and in the pictures in a way that you wouldn't know that was all there, but it clearly is there. Because that's what allows the ed psychs and the looked after children, people working with looked after children to be able to use it so forcefully. It's great. It really is. Give us a little extract then. I think you're going to read a little bit.
Okay.
And feel free to hold it up because it does appear the right way around, even though it might look back to front view, but it is the right way around to the audience there. So show the pictures as well. Give us a little taste of it.
Okay. Right. Scratch, scratch, scratch. A large hairy paw shot up into the air. One giant claw appeared, and with it Arty scratched his head. This is a story about Arthur, a large brown bear with cute little ears, a jet black nose, and an enormous bottom. He was known to his friends as Arty. Arty sat down on a tree trunk. His shoulders sagged, and his head was bowed low. All was not well in Bouncy Wood today. A blue bottle settled on his nose, and he swiped it away with his lollipin paw. He could be heard growling and muttering to himself.
This way, there we go. Yeah, there he is, swapping the butterfly away.
Yep. How do you think Arty is feeling today? Suki Squirrel was scurrying backwards and forwards, gathering her nuts, almost too busy to notice her friend Arty sitting on the tree trunk nearby. She had a big red bow on the top of her head. I think they've done me proud with the illustrations, actually.
A bit more this way to the camera. Yeah, there we go. Yeah. Yeah, it's just so vivid and bright, like so, like like a still from an animation, like something from Snow White.
That's it. So swish, swish, swish went her lovely big bushy tail as she approached. She jumped up on the tree trunk next to him. "What's wrong, Arty?" she said. Arty just shook his head. "Thank you, Suki, but I don't want to talk about it," he said. "Okay," said Suki Squirrel, and went on her way. Swish, swish, swish. Later that day, while Suki was gathering some berries, she heard the sound of scratching, and little mounds of earth started to form in front of her. Suki stared at the ground in amazement. From a tiny hole in the ground, up popped a cheeky-faced grey rabbit, with big floppy ears and a white bobtail.
Up a bit, up, there we go. Yeah, lovely.
It was her friend Robbo Rabbit, and he had been busy making his new burrow. Twitch, twitch, twitch. His whiskers were very long, and they twitched almost as fast as a propeller on an aeroplane. "Hello, Suki," he said. "I am worried about Arty," said Suki. "He does not feel like talking today. What do you think we should do?" Robbo Rabbit's whiskers were still twitching at a fast rate. Thump, thump, thump. He thumped his large rabbit foot onto the ground several times. He was thinking about what he could do. He decided it would be a good idea to visit Arty himself to see if he could help.
Yep, lovely.
Robbo found Arty still sitting on his tree trunk. "What's wrong, Arty?" said Robbo. Once again, Arty just shook his head and did not want to talk. So Robbo hopped off to find Suki.
Yeah.
Suki Squirrel and Robbo Rabbit went to visit their friend Ozzy the Owl. Ozzy was sitting on his favourite branch having a nap, but he always had one eye open. "We are worried about Arty. Will you speak with him?" said Robbo and Suki. "Yes, of course I will," said Ozzy. He was a wise old owl who always knew what to do. So perhaps we ought to wait and see what he...
Yeah, let's leave them in suspense on that.
Yeah.
The owl knows what to do.
I don't think I read it as well as Sarah Ferguson, because I had her, she picked my book on her channel.
Oh yeah.
I'm at Fergie and Friends on Instagram.
Oh, how nice. So she read it, did she?
Yeah.
That's special, isn't it?
Really.
It's a story about friendship as much as anything, isn't it? So Arty's clearly something's troubling him and he's not himself. Yes. And it's not about just pull yourself together. It's how the friends all sort of rally round and persistently, we don't know what to do, let's go to somebody else. Or they don't know what to do, let's go to somebody else. So they're constantly doing something until they address the problem. The reader will have to find out later, but they do it and they address the problem. So it's about empathy and understanding and friendship and problem solving and care and love, as well as that Arty understands that when things aren't right, that it's okay to be not okay.
Yes.
And secondly, that actually talking about it is okay. The things that are in your head sometimes aren't once you've talked about it, aren't actually as bad as you think they're going to be. So that's true. Like I said, it's a simple little story, but there's so much that you've built into it with your understanding, with your wisdom, with your education, with your learning, with your knowledge of psychology, all starting from that point of view. I'm going to go to Open University. What shall I do? It could have been a book about the law, couldn't it? About the legal system. You had that choice all those years ago.
That's it.
So you got other? Sorry, have you got other books in line, Linda?
I've got one other that's already published. It's this one, which actually my grandson.
Bring it this way. Keep moving across. There we go. Caught in the web. Okay, is that Arty again?
That's Arty the Bear and Friends.
Yeah.
So it's a subtle warning about the dangers of the internet.
Yeah. So what you did there with the web and the computer. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's kind of a trip with Arty the Bear and his family, and they want to go and see the travelling theatre show.
Right.
So I kind of wrote it in a way that wouldn't be frightening for young children. It is a nice little story, and this is adventure when he goes to see the travelling theatre show, and you see Baz the rabbit with his parrot Squawk. And so it's quite a nice, like, gentle little story. And one evening he logs on to Twitcher, see, and he sees on the screen this lovely snowy bunny rabbit, and she wants to meet him, you see. So he does go along to meet her, but things are not what they seem. So it's if you want to sort of start at a young age, and it's the same with What's Wrong Arty, you start at a young age and encourage them to talk about things that trouble them. Yeah. If they can make it the norm that they do talk when things are troubling them. And the same with the internet. It's all, just be aware of who you're talking to. Things are not always what they seem. Just be careful. It just lodges just a little message in there, but for the youngsters. Yeah, no, I like that. So talking of Twitcher, Twinder, social media, how can people get hold of you? How can they? I think that the book might well be available through our friends at the Roving Bookshop, but also your publisher as well. So tell us how people can get hold of you and hold of the book, and where they find you on social media, Linda. Yes, so you can find me at Amazon. You literally punch my name in, and it'll literally come straight up. So fame at last, at least on that. You can find me on Twitter and Facebook at Beckett Books, and Instagram at Arty the Bear and Friends. Right. Okay. And do you have a website yet? Have you got as far as that? I've got an author website, which is on Austin Macaulay. So if you go on Austin Macaulay and then pop my name in, then my details will come up, and the book can be bought through there. Yeah. But I am in the process of doing my own website. I'm actually looking into that now, because I think I can do so much more, and I could have lots of information about mental health and internet safety for children, and sort of evolve that way. That would be nice. And the reviews and things that you get, you can put them on there as well, can't you? Because they're such powerful recommendations of your book. So no, that's thank you. thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing Arty. Thank you for writing Arty. Thank you for bringing your expertise into schools and other clinical settings, other settings as well. Good luck with all of that. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you. Bye. Bye.